Right, hi there. It's the last day of 2022 Cheltenham Festival. It's day 4, the biggest day of the week. Friday with the Gold Cup being on. Hope you have had some luck so far. Hope I can help you a little bit with this. The last day. All I would say is keep an eye on the ground and just make sure that the horses, certainly I'm selecting, that they go on the ground, because the ground is changing all the time. I'm doing these videos a little bit in advance and I'm not quite sure what the going will be on Gold Cup day. So just check the horses and just check that they actually go on the ground. Right, if I can start off first with the first race, the JCB Triumph Hurdle, just over 2 mile and a furlong. Grade 1 race. Vauban will be the favourite in this race. It's improved from 2 runs ago till its last run. Very impressive in its last run. A worthy favourite, but it's a very competitive race at the first few in the betting. Pied Piper, Gordon Elliott's horse, highly rated on the flat, done very little wrong. It's the same owner as Phil Doe, which is the one I'm going to mention in a minute. It was rated 96 on the flat. It's hurdling well. It's got every chance. That's the second favourite, Pied Piper. The third favourite in the betting, Phil Doe, was the anti-post favourite for a long time for this race, but it's been beat off Vauban since over 3 lengths, so it's got a bit to find with Vauban. But I think the conditions of the race, with the going changing, it could be more a test of stamina. And at the prices, I think Phil Doe is about 5 to 1, somewhere around that, possibly a little bit bigger. I think I'll be backing Phil Doe in the race for value, and I'll be backing it each way. Night Salute is a British horse. It's unbeaten, but has it been running against the same class of horse what these 3 Irish horses have been running in? Vauban, Pied Piper and Phil Doe possibly could have been running in hotter races, so therefore might stand up better. Right, that's the first race. The second race, the County Hurdle, always a competitive handicap, over 2 mile 1, grade 3 race. Pointers in the race is lightly raced hurdlers do well in the race. The last 2 winners of the race have been first or second season novices, so fairly unexposed young horses. It'll be a fast gallop in the race, so a good turn of foot is required at the end of the race. Gordon Elliott and Nicky Henderson's got a very poor record in the race, which for 2 people who was very successful at the Cheltenham Festival, that's worth bearing in mind. The favourite in the race will be Willie Mullins' horse State Man, which has been well backed on the lead up to the race. It's been entered in quite a few different races, so he's obviously tried to pick the easiest race for it to win. It's at the right age, it's about the 5-year-old, so I wouldn't put anybody off backing that one. State Man, there's plenty of money for it and plenty of support. Top Bandit, Gordon Elliott. As I said, his record's not great in the race, but it's 6 to 1, it's one of the favourites. It's won its last 3, but it wouldn't be my choice. Skelton's horse in the race, he's got a good record. West Cork at about 8 to 1. It's well fancied. But for me, a horse I've backed anti-post, and I've backed it again recently. I backed this one at 20 to 1, I backed it again at 10 to 1. It looks to have gotten in the handicap on a good mark for some reason. It's showing good form. Not quite sure why it's got the handicap mark, and it's been pointed out by others. It's a horse, it's not a great jumper, but it's a young horse what's improving its jumping. The nature of this course today, on the new course, in this particular race, it'll allow it this bigger lengths of span running on the flat between jumps, so the hurdles are more spaced out. It gives a horse what isn't a fluent jumper but a safe jumper, it gives it more time to stay in the race. And it's kernel mustard. As I say, I backed it a little bit ago at 20s and I backed it at 10s, but it's not a horse I could have shouted out Andy Post because it wasn't guaranteed to run. The trainer wasn't sure if it was even going to run at any of the Cheltenham races this week till late on. It could have ended up at Liverpool, or it could have ended up running at Ireland. So it's not one I could have shouted out at Andy Post, but it's in the race. It's got a good handicap mark. It's got a lot in its favour, and I think it's still about 8-1, somewhere around that mark, and that's me napper on the last day. At the price, you could be backing it each way. I think Sky Bet's playing 8 places instead of 4. There's quite a few runners in the race, so anybody who wants to go each way, I wouldn't put them off. It's a safe each way bet, I think. But I'm hoping it's going to win the race. Race 3, the Albert Bartlett Novice Hurdle over 3 mile. A staying race for novices over 3 mile, grade 1. The Irish have dominated this in recent years. John Joe O'Neill is also 2 from 2. So a British trainer, he hasn't had a lot of runners in it, but the runners he has had in it's done well. He's got 2 from 2. The ideal age, 6 or 7 year old. Again, Nicky Henderson, Gordon Elliott, it's not a race that they've done particularly well in. So getting down to the horses itself, there's a number at the top of the market what will all run big races. Jinto, Manila Kakuna, Hillcrest. They've all run, hardly been beaten. They've all run great races. Any one of them could win it. But the horse I'm going to go with is Jinto of Gordon Elliott's, regardless of how he's done the race. It's a right age. It's stepping up from 2.5 to 3 mile. It looks like it's sure to have loads of stamina and be a stay, so I think there'll be improvement, stepping up in distance. That's the one for me, Jinto. Manila Kakuna, it's bred to get the trip, but it's unproven at the trip, so you don't know till it's done it. But it'll be in the shake-up as well. Hillcrest, it's won all of its 4 races, British horse. The only one it's lost is when it fell, and it was unlucky then. It wasn't its own fault, I don't believe, when it fell. So couldn't put people off backing Hillcrest. It's a great big horse, what will make a steer in time. It's proven on the ground, it's proven over the distance. It'll be challenging later on, but for me, as I said, Jinto. Anybody who wants to have a little bet at a big price, one I've backed a little bit at about 50-1 for small amounts, is Marla Mission. It's strange the way it's been prepared for the race a little bit. It ran, I think it was at Catterick in a maiden hurdle over 2 mile. It then stepped up in distance. It won that race easy, but it was an egg and spoon race. It was a very weak race, a maiden hurdle. He then ran it over, he stepped it up to 2.5 mile. Sorry, he stepped it up to 3 mile, but put a tongue tie on and put blinkers on, and that was stepped up in grade. It went to grade 2, and I backed it there just because I was just watching what the trainer was doing, the Irish trainer, I think it's Connolly, what he was doing with it, and I thought it was interesting. It won that grade 2, so it's only a young horse, improving, but it lacks experience. But at the price, it's still about 25-1. I think it's worth a couple of pound each way on that one. Marla Mission. So that's that race covered. Again, if you shop around, you could get 5 places instead of 3 in that race. The 4th race is the biggest race of the meeting. It's the Magnas Gold Cup over 3 1/4 mile. Grade 1 race. The Irish trained horses have won 6 from the last 8. So they're particularly strong of late in that race. The ideal age is 7 to 9 year old. Looking through the race, the top ones at the market, any one of these could win the race. I've actually backed a Plutard previously, a little while ago. I've backed Galvin for a couple of pound at 40 to 1. It's now round about the 4 to 1 mark. But Manila Indoor won it last year, and although at this time I'm not on Manila Indoor, I napped it last year and it ran a great race. I've actually backed a Plutard, as I said, and I've backed Galvin, anti-post, for a little bit. But looking at the ground, everything taken into consideration, I think Manila Indoor could be the one. It's a definite stay, where a Plutard, sometimes you wonder if it just gets home over 3 mile plus, with the way the ground's changed, and if the ground still remains on the soft side, it's going to be a test of stamina. Galvin, I backed it last year. It did us a favour. I napped it on a different day last year and it won for us. The ground possibly puts us off a little bit. It's a proven stay, it's got stamina, but on the ground it would have liked the ground to be quicker. Good to soft wouldn't have been a problem, soft wouldn't have been a problem, but if the ground's heavy, I think it could put us off Galvin a little bit. So Manila Indoor for me in the big race of Gold Cup. Alboom Photo has previously won the race, but it's now 10-year-old. The stats say that a 10-year-old that'll be against it. So I'm a little bit put off with that. Protectorate's improving, but not for me in the race. The 5th race, the Foxhunters Chase, which is for amateur riders over 3 1/4 mile. That's effectively like the Gold Cup for amateurs. It'll be a thrill for all them riding in that race. It's the same course and distance as the Gold Cup, but as I said, for amateur horses, for amateur riders. When you're looking for a horse, you're looking for a horse what's ran well previously in the spring festivals this time of year, this type of race. As far as I'm concerned, it's not a race I bother with much. If you were having a bet, the favourites bill away at 5 to 2, it's going to be round about winning the race or second. It's going to be round about there. If I'd have a bet, it would have to be that, but normally I leave the race alone. The last race, the 6th race, the Mrs. Power Mares Chase over 2 1/2 mile. That's a fairly new race. It's only been going, this will be the 2nd year for the race. So it's hard to draw opinions on any particular stats in the race. Willie Mullins does really well with mares at Cheltenham, and as this is a mares race, he's going to be one to watch out for. He's got the favourite LMA. It was 2nd in the race last year. That's the one, it's favourite, but that's going to take some beating. Concertista's in the race, but because it's won a grade 2, it's having to give LMA £3, and that £3 could make the difference. Concertista will still run a good race, but that £3 to LMA, it sways me to LMA. Mount Ida's also in the race. It won last year. It come from way back off the pace to get up. It'll run a fair race, but I think I've narrowed it down to the favourite LMA. somebody wanted to back each way and wanted to back at bigger prices, Vienna Court's about 14 to 1. It might run into a place at a bigger price. It's got to improve again, but it has been improving. So somebody wants a couple of pound on each way, Vienna Court. Right, the last race, the Martin Pipe Handicap Hurdle, over 2.5 mile. It's a race that Martin Pipe has sponsored for a long time now, but his son David Pipe has struggled to have the win in the race. I don't think he's had the win in the race. He generally has the odd horse in the race, but it's a race where he would want to win it, but he struggles to find a winner. That's his son, the trainer, David Pipe. Things to watch out for: lightly raced hurdlers, novices, young horses, 5 to 8 year old in the race. The last 4 winners have been at the top of the handicap. 11 stone plus they've had to carry. Willie Mullins, again, good record in the race. He's had 4 out of the last 11. Giggerstown, that's hard to say that. Giggerstown House Stud, they've had 4 from the last 11. They're owners who do well in the race. Gordon Elliott's respected in the race. So taking all these things into consideration, it's a race where you'll get 6 places as well, so at each way a bet might be worthwhile in this race. A 1/2 took a Skelton's horse. It's getting in lightly with its handicap mark. It ran well last year at Cheltenham. I think it might have been the same race it ran well. As I say, the handicap mark's good. It's about the 5 to 1 mark. It's the horse I'm taking for the race. You could back it each way if you wanted. Some of the other ones to point out: Gordon Elliott with the record, Holler Games, it'll run a fair race. It's got the right profile, stays well. Willie Mullins, adamantly chosen. Now he run this in just a 2 mile maiden, but it's unexposed young horse. Stepping up the 2.5 mile, he'll know this horse is going to find a lot and improve a lot. So it's another one what'll be thereabouts. Gordon Elliott's also been shouting out Chemical Energy at the previews, the Cheltenham previews. He's been shouting that one out a bit. So it's a wide open race, and I've named a few what'll be thereabouts, but for me it's Langer Dan, Skelton's horse. Right, that's the meeting completed. I hope you have had a good 4 days. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope I haven't sent you down the wrong track too many times and you have had a few winners. Bye for this year's 2022 Cheltenham Festival.